Yes, yes, well, I think I was volunteered into this role tonight, which is a bit unexpected, and I've been lucky for so many years to be involved in this organisation, and you're only wheeling me out now because I'm a survivor. But it's been an amazing period, and the volunteer side of things has been one of the most rewarding. Before I start on the volunteers, and I may say, Lee, you've stolen most of my thunder with your remarks. I'd like to thank His Excellency for hosting us tonight, and for your and Lady Lorimer's very deep involvement with us. It's been an inspiration to all of us, and we thank you for that. There have been past governors too, who have, many of them, who have, since 1973, have given us support and raised the profile by supporting our events and so forth. My first memory was of Sir Peter Stallard, before the foundation of the Trust itself, who came to open the Scarlet Nature Trail in 1972, the year before the Trust started, who made a wonderful speech. He was very interested in the geology of Scarlet, and he said, I remember this very clearly, he said, all you volunteers who help here must clout little louts on the head with your geological hammers. Well, it was a lovely way of telling the public what we were up to at Scarlet. And since then, Governor Cecil opened the visitor centre. I know that they're not called visitor centres now, but I'm too old to change. Yes, he opened the visitor centre in 10 years later, and we've had all sorts of support, and we're very grateful for that. It means a lot in the Isle of Man. So I'd just like to thank, through you, the memory of that support that we've had from Government House in the past. Yes, volunteers. It makes you think, Sergeant Major, I want 3 volunteers, you, and you. You don't feel you're volunteering at all. You feel you're being ordered to do something. But it's not like that with the Wildlife Trust, I don't think. Everybody is doing it because they want to, and that's wonderful. As I say, Lee has mentioned several of the aspects of volunteering which we all represent, but there are 1 or 2 more quite peculiar things which I'd just like to mention running through my mind. For instance, the other week at the Gaiety, I don't know whether they were Trust members, but I suspect they were, and in the past that's happened. Shaking buckets for donations in the rain outside the Gaiety at 10:30 at night was pretty good to bring in funds. Selling tickets, collecting in street charity collections. There have been people who've done all these things, and there are many more as well. Painting silk banners for display on special occasions, and also making artworks to sell as raffle prizes. And I think most of you will know who I'm thinking of. I haven't seen her here, Jean Buck, but that's a sort of volunteering thing that you wouldn't expect to happen at all. Hauling on ropes and battling in the wind to erect marquees on the down at Port Erin for the Marine Day, or for other charity events, fundraising events. Visiting the calf on a regular basis over a long period. For instance, at the time when the eradication of rats was going on. That was a very dedicated task done by volunteers. Sailing out into the Irish Sea, again in all sorts of weather, to carry out basking shark tagging. Do you remember that programme? Innovative and extremely important, which we were involved with. Making batch after batch of cakes to sell at cake stores and also to feed the volunteers. Cadging raffle prizes from businesses, great and small, and then flogging the tickets afterwards. That's a huge job, thankless task, but people always are seem to be ready to do it. Painting the floor, Simon knows who I'm talking about, painting the floor every spring at the Scarlet Visitor Centre, just as a normal thing that you have to do without being asked. And then the jobs that Tricia oversees: burning gorse, planting, slashing rhododendrons, chopping thistles. Again, much of it tedious, exhausting, but important. And there are so many more things, as I say. Lee mentioned some of them as well. There are so many different people who've helped. When you think about the skills that they have offered and given to us: photographers, botanists, several of them here tonight, I see, bat and butterfly recorders, newsletter deliverers, pond dipping helpers, secretaries, chairmen of meetings, which can be so boring and so taxing, but they come along and they do it. They have to do it, and they do it. People packing shopping for Saturday morning shoppers in ShopRite to raise funds. I don't know whether we can still do that. And the list is just endless, and we're grateful for everything that they've all done. But I'd like to finish by naming a few personalities from the past. And there will be some of you, although there are many faces I don't know here tonight of new and young volunteers, and that's marvellous. But there are one or two old hands like me still hanging on who will remember some of these names. And because they're so diverse and were always so interesting, I just want to mention a few names. Tony Hobson, Secretary of the Trust for a number of years, one of the architects of the early nature reserves, and a key campaigner for the Trust in its early days. This is a random list, not in any order of timing. Val Crane, who died last year in her mid-90s. Shop volunteer, visitor centre volunteer, right through from the very beginning of the Trust. A mucker, a very keen mucker and a very keen supporter of the Northern Members Group. We lost Val last year, and she was an archetypal volunteer for us. Some of you will remember Donald and Sheila Curry. Donald was our treasurer in the days, not quite of the abacus, but before computers, when the accounts were written on a ledger with a pen. They both gave wonderful service. I mentioned the name of Annie Lowy, who taught us how to apply for sponsorship, who also oversaw some of the early newsletter making and was a wonderful publicist and showed us how to do several things along those lines. A recent former chairman, Richard Higgins, who started life as a shop volunteer and then ended up as chair of the Trust, and achieving a very calming and wise period of leadership, and always with a wisecrack behind it. Wonderful man. Going much further back, do any of you remember Dr. Roger Walsh?
Yes.
Who lived on the outskirts of Ramsey, who was a visitor centre volunteer at the Ayres, and who supported, in the days when we used to have monthly excursions, walks, and exploration of reserves for members. We don't seem to do that much now. And he would turn up with thermos fulls of coffee and tea in the back of his boot of his car to give to whoever turned up. And he was the most faithful of volunteers in for that thing. And another person who I remember with great affection, all these people have passed on, sadly. Charlotte Shafter, who again a shop volunteer and a helper at many of the big fundraising events which I was privileged to help with. She was always ready to help on that team, doing the job that you have to do, from waitressing at the dinners and so forth. And also who raised hundreds of pounds for the trust by her professional skill as a quilter. On her passport, she told me, she wrote as her profession quilter. And she made the most beautiful patchwork and would frequently donate one of her pieces of art to help with fundraising. Fundraising events were always a very big part of life when we were all volunteers. Those days seem to have gone. I don't quite know why. Anyway, there it is. All these jobs have been done with faithfulness and with humour and with dedication by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. So I'd like you all perhaps to raise a glass and drink a toast to volunteers past and present, and also in the hope of the volunteers who will be joining us in the future. Okay. So
The volunteers.
yes, thank you.